Welcome everybody in the Guild. My name's Sean Moffat. I'm a co-founder of the Guild and have brought to you today a number of different ventures and experiments that are either in transit and in motion, have had a lot of planning on the shop room floor, but have yet to launch, or things that might appear completely new and different to you today. We've been hosting what we've been calling participation showcases all week. For the sake of hopefully telling people what's coming up next in 2024, getting familiar with where our early plans and aspirations are, and seeing if you might want to be involved. So we're going to try to answer all those questions today. And I guess we're going to break this up into two forms, for both the sake of understanding before we kind of engage, and as well to make sure there's a recorded piece for our audience that may see this later. I'm going to run for about 20 minutes presenting what's on the table and some distinctions between what a venture is and what the Guild is and where those intersections exist. And then we're going to break for an FAQ kind of group discussion in terms of anything that you've seen in this presentation. So with no further ado, I want to thank everybody that's joined here live today. We've kept it intentionally small so we can get into some good conversation afterward, but I think our mission next week is to expand the circle to as many as 400 people to be involved in what we've got going on in Cygnus Ventures. So here we go. Like I said, this is the 6th of 6 different showcases. We've covered off community and content and intelligence and learning and a range of different things. We've started this quote with every one of those things. This is about participation. Do more than belong, participate, do more than care, help, do more than believe, practice, and do more than dream work. We think this captures very much the spirit of the Guild over its last 4 years. And certainly within this ventures group, where the more sweat, the more intellectual energy you put into it, the better we become and the more influence that you have overall. So we're talking experiments and ventures today. It's interesting. Usually the genesis of these things is somebody has a really good idea somewhere in the Guild. They surface as an experiment. We maybe have a small discussion. We tend to vote on these things at our General Assembly or year-end General Assembly. And what you see from today's list is a group of the most favored ventures from those people. So I've still got 1 or 2 horses in the race that I'd love to hatch, but the group didn't want them. So we don't do them. So we are at the whim and behest of people in the Guild. This is a group of people, and if everybody could mute their engines, there's a bit of scratchiness on someone's. If my co-host can find who they are, thank you. This is a group of 18, now 19 people that are steering a lot of our different efforts across the Guild in these ventures. An amazing group of people that are both smart, ambitious, aspirational, collaborative, driven, and want to make sure that all the stuff hatches with great fanfare. Bit of research behind all of this. But a year and a half ago, we did research our Guild. We said, hey, from a hygiene factor standpoint, what can we do better? Their number 1, 2, 3, 4 was collaboration, commercialization, communication, and ambassadorship. Certainly number 2 speaks volumes to what we're talking about today, ventures. And so that's why we're doing it. In terms of Guild motivations, we asked, what do you want to have as forms? Like, why should we engage and get together? Certainly collaboration was a big one. Learning was a big one. Remuneration was a big one. And I could have spelled that wrong, actually. And then enhancing your either personal or company brand reputation in the process. And I think what our ventures try to do is get at all 4 of these things. So Cygnus Ventures, in short, we can use Latin, audentes fortuna luvat el dolor, and I'm really bad at other languages, but fortune favors the bold and smart. We are looking at building, with your help, ongoing commercial, educational, and societal value through a range of different ventures. We have 13 winners that we're going to expose to you today. Some of them are well known, others are less well known, and hopefully at the end of this, you'll decide. Certainly not all of these will be your cup of tea, but there'll be other ones that you go, yeah, I definitely want to have a piece of that. And my hope is we'll give you the modus operandi for getting involved. So one thing up front, because this continues to be a little bit of noise, some real and some perceived, and I just thought it would be helpful off the top. There are two different brands, if you will, involved in what we're doing. There's Grey Swan Guild that has hatched and birthed this great spirit of 10,000 members and a movement to try to make sense of both the current and future world. 2 years ago, a little bit later, we hatched Cygnus Ventures. There was a lot of strategic discussion. There was a lot of hand-wringing at times. My stats would say about 78% of our guild really wanted to have this happen. They wanted, for a range of different reasons I'll expose soon. But there was at least a hardcore 10 to 15% that said, no, I would love this just to stay as the community that we've already built. So I'll recognize that up front for what it is. I think both entities have a common mission. Both entities scream the values that we share, and both entities get involved in all 6 of our core activities, but on different levels and maybe for different purposes. The differences are, one's a little bit older. We are grateful for the hatching out of Grey Swan Guild that Cygnus is. I would argue that Grey Swan Guild is more member-directed and more of an open forum. We get together and we do things where everybody has a voice. I would argue that Cygnus Ventures is probably more world-directed, looking for things that may exist outside of our membership and aimed at sustaining value. And our operating models can be quite different. Sometimes we share, but the guild functions based on sponsors and donors and management and member fees. The Cygnus Ventures groups kind of lives off of partners and commerce and engagement and tuition fees. Neither is evil. Neither is horrible. You may have a proclivity to one or another. That's great. But that's how we've decided to set it up. And I think the conversation goes less about let's change things or let's get into a discussion around how do we manage both entities, and let's just do them with as much perfection as we possibly can. And the reason why they're called Cygnus Ventures, 3 reasons about the name. One is Cygnus, for those that don't know, is Latin for swan. We thought there should be a strong affiliation with the guild, given the fact many of our members in the ventures are guild members as well. And we wanted a tight association. Swans, I mean, Lord, in England, I think the Queen still has ownership over all the swans in England. So there is a nobility around this waterfowl. It's one of the largest ones out there. There's so much richness in terms of what swans actually do, but they certainly personify teamwork and loyalty and bravery and migration. And from a constellation standpoint, Cygnus is also the Northern Cross. Certainly back in olden times, ancient mariners would steer themselves principally based on the appearance of Cygnus in the sky, and we think that was probably a powerful motivation too. What's the real reasons beyond the branding aspect? We believe this fuels guild member interest. More than 3/4 of us want ventures. We also think it's probably a better pathway to revenue that can sustain both of our entities. There was an ambition and aspiration to extend and capture value and become bigger, better, bolder. We want to make sure that for people that are going well beyond the call of duty, that we consider their value for time invested. Certainly, we got really good advice 2 years ago when we set this up. Myself and Rob, our guild co-founder, had no proclivity to want to build a set of ventures. I mean, we just got into the guild because out of interest and curiosity, and it has grown and manifested from there. But certainly as a governance model, it's much better to separate some things that we can do on a not-for-profit basis versus other things on a for-profit basis. And finally, and this is going to be evidence today, there are going to be niche interests and motivations that you look at some of our ventures going, that I would never be interested in, and that's entirely fine. I guarantee you there's probably going to be 3 or 4 things on this list that you go, sign me up, I want to be involved. And my hope is you decide, no, I'm not going to sign up for 4. I'm going to sign up for 2, and I'm going to do my best damn job at trying to get those things hatched to the world with great professionalism. So we shared this in a previous showcase this week. I mean, really, when you look at what we do as a guild and as a ventures group, we mine as many and probably more than 26 participation appetites. And so on one side of the fence in the guild, you have a range of different things that you can do. And there is an event or a piece of content or a group that is mining those 13 areas. And on the venture side, we're going to cover off 13 different sides today that mine perhaps a different type of appetite in the guild. And so that's what we're trying to do here today. From where is this all going? I think 2 years ago, we launched some of these efforts. And I recognize my computer is slow here today. We launched some of these efforts. Now we're going to try to scale some of them. 2 years ago, we had a vision and a plan mindset. I think now this year, it's like we're in execution mode. We want to make sure these ventures happen and having some type of startup mentality. I think 2 years ago, we said, should we do it? Now, I think there's almost an obligation to do it. I know I'm committing myself to making sure some of these things happen with my personal equity. Every participant matters in the guild. I think in the ventures group, merit, sweat, and caliber really, really count, particularly when we get other external stakeholders involved. And it's no longer guild versus ventures, it's guild with ventures. And so my hope is you'll see that appetite in today's discussion. You'll see 13 different ventures, and there's at least 400 different opportunities to participate. Why do I believe we can get these 400 people? Well, we've built a guild of about 10,000 people with not $1 spent over the course of 4 years. So for something that may be motivating for people, I have a good assertion that we can get the right group of people into these different ventures. 3 of them are intelligence-based, 3 of them are learning-based, 3 of them are content-based, 2 of them are publishing-based, and 2 of them are professional services-based. Here's a little bit of a palette of what they look like. They all have their own branding schema, if you will. Some of them we're probably going to be exposing you today for the first time, at least 1 or 2 of these. Some of them are more well-known. If you want to join any of these, I don't care who you are. I don't care how young you are. I don't care what part of the world you're in, what political stripe you have. As long as you kind of live our values, want to step up and join one of our wedges, which is our synonym for teams, join us. Grab an oar. Start paddling. We want to do great things, and we want them to do it together. So please join us. So like I said, 400 people. Let's cover off some of these ventures. And I'll try to be quick so we can break out for discussion. Our first venture is probably the one I'm maybe most proud about, Cygnus Publishing. The gap, and I'm going to expose a gap and a need on each one of these pages. Not many people out there are doing collaborative, interdisciplinary content on really big topics. We think there's merit in doing it, particularly on big subjects. We're looking for 10 authors and probably a number of other organizers over a period of time. Gordon Withrow is managing this as the managing director of Cygnus Publishing. He has engaged a group of about 8 people, I believe, that are meeting every Monday. And they have done so for the last 10 weeks to hatch our next book. So we launched it early January 2023. We launched a book in June of 2023. For those that are watching, this is what it looks like. An amazing collaboration amongst 30 authors. What's coming up next? We are launching edition number 2, as well as some extensions from that uncertainty work. And we've got a book called Compass that we will be launching for September. And this is a little bit of what it looks like. So the call for writers goes out, likely coming from an email from Gordon Withrow, and we will broadcast it across the guild. The 2 dates to keep in mind is late February. We'll be asking for writers to write to a very sharp understanding of what kind of product we want to produce. And the book publication will be due on September 12th. You will be credited. There will be some type of plan to not only share the reputation bump that you hopefully get from being part of this, but also the investment bump and the financial return from this. So more on that as details follow. Cygnus Sprints. This is a consulting group we set up, consulting and advisory group. It's an on-demand group of about 70 consultants that's designed for a complex, sped-up world. Quite candidly, and we've seen all the headlines recently about some of the big 4 consultancies either laying off people or perhaps having a culture that might not be the best place to be at. Quite simply, we think consulting, the way it's contrived currently, is too slow, it's too pricey, it's too arrogant, it's too expensive, and it's not client-centric. And so we've got a really good team in place right now. We're reshaping things as we go. We're probably going to focus, and we haven't had all the conversations to get at this, but we're probably going to focus in on innovation and growth. Why? Because that are the two easiest things for us to sell in. And so if you're interested in that and I haven't tapped you on the shoulder yet, please tap me on the shoulder. We're going to meet as soon as next week to recircle the wagons and do a very sharp hit on looking at 50 CEOs, bringing them in, seeing if we can sell any one of our 8 different sprints, but certainly looking at that. We're going to host 4 big CXO events in this year, starting in March. And we'll hopefully have a standalone website that will provide some type of guidance into what type of professional service do you want from both in general and us. And so the need, we want 14 innovation and growth consultants. We'll certainly take a group of people that have a startup mentality and want to look at building this across the range of different things that we're doing. The radar collection, we've got 2 different research pieces here. This is a group of people that have got together to do futures and foresight and forecasts that hopefully are a little bit more disciplined than what I've seen out there, and hopefully a little bit more actionable as well. We have 4 reports that we're going to be doing this year. We're looking for 4 leaders, 12 captains, 2 specialists, and about 50 people that can be added to our panel. People don't know this, but we have a group of about 350 people that have filled out a fairly large profile. We know a lot about them, and they become part of our global group of sense makers, and they help support our radar collection and Weathervane's approach, which I'll talk about in a minute. We launched this January of 2023. We have, as mentioned, 4 reports coming up this year. 100 Gray Swans, which is due out this month. The Bioscene report due out in April, the future of multi-realities in June, and the future of cities in October. Really excited about that last one. And then finally, as a joint project with the Weathervanes, we are looking at producing a platform that exposes all this intelligence in a subscribable format. So we're looking for leaders on some of these projects. Certainly, multi-realities is yet to be tapped as a leader. So I'll probably be trying to tap other people. And then things, we'll be working some of our stuff in 2025 and 2024 too. So we're looking for about 16 people as core representatives on this work. And this is what our future of cities cover might look like. Weathervanes is the current version of what radar is. There's primary and secondary research involved. We've already done 5 waves of this already. We've done it in a guild, more haphazard fashion. Once again, looking for a group of leaders, captains, specialists, and people that can operate on our panel. The real challenge, I guess, if you will, is we find a lot of research that's out there skims the surface and implies some level of certainty that just doesn't exist. And so we'd rather do something that's a little bit more fulsome. What do we have on tap for this year? We have an uncertainty Weathervane that's due out in March. We have a AI realities report due out in June. The DNA of organization next due out in October. And a customer zeitgeist that is due out January 25, that is a shared project with the Radar Group. Once again, all these people will be involved in setting up a platform of trends as well. And so this is a little bit of what the uncertainty project will be covering. So more details to follow, but if you're interested in research, there's 2 massive ventures that have a very straight line tie to both increasing the following and reputation of our guild and the ventures, and also providing some revenue channels back to us in a very direct fashion. I may skim over some of these for the sake of getting to our conversation later. This one's a little bit more involved, but perhaps one of the most ambitious things that we're doing in the guild this year. The Compass and Compendium, we've called it the Rosetta Stone for making sense of the world. And really what it is we're trying to inventory 750 frameworks under one sensible roof that hopefully allows people to tour around and get over some of their lack of fluency and literacy around what types of approaches are available to them when faced with both knowledge and decision-making forks in the road. We're looking for a lot of people on this project. We've got a really good crew of about 12 people involved early. I see Chuck, who's here, that has been invaluable in terms of an early help on this project. We'll be doing many focus groups in late February and March with a whole bunch of subject matter experts. But if this intrigues you at all, please let us know. Like I said, there's a lot of work involved in terms of building out both the tech platform, but also the content behind 750 frameworks. And so it's from an outcome standpoint, though, we would love this before faced with any big challenge or decision in your professional world, for this to be the first stop that you make before deciding to make it. That's the value we hope to provide. And just the two different parts, the compass part, which is more of a how do we guide and how do we tour around and how do we break out of some of our comfort zones and explore, and then the compendium piece, how do we get to the red meat of how do we use these approaches, what are the best approaches to be used, and what are some neutral, unbiased points of view of which type of approach is better. Guild Masterclasses, we've talked about this in our learning showcase. We have on tap to do 3 beta 9-week versions of Masterclasses come September 7th. And throughout the year, 3-hour miniaturized versions of these teaching classes. In my experience, the executive learning opportunities that are out there are usually poor. They usually are a group of videos followed by a test and maybe followed by a keynote speech with limited interaction with some kind of potentate of the world of professional life. We think there should be a greater range, a greater intimacy of learning experiences. And certainly, the people that are hosting these sessions should have probably done the work before, which is also a challenge. So we're looking for leaders. We're looking for faculty. We want to be the leading curriculum for change agents, visionaries, and planners. We have probably 5 or 6 topics that we're finalizing on the 9-week programs. One of them is Futures and Foresights, which is a real affection amongst our guild members. One of them is Innovation and Business Models. One of them is AI and technology and how to actually really use that in your 4 walls of corporate life. I think I'm trying to remember some of the others that we're looking at. Leadership and culture. And I'm missing 2 of them, but we'd like to get down to 3 of these and have a faculty of 3 pull them off starting on September 7th. So let us know if you're interested. Futuregazing, some real success here and some real kind of circling back in terms of what we want to do. We think there are critical thinking, life, and future skills that teens simply aren't being taught in school. I find it interesting when I query people in terms of their interest and their purpose of giving back. There's a lot of us that feel almost an obligation to make sure the generation behind us has the same level of knowledge and skills and appetites that we do. We're looking for a number of people this year to look at this. We hosted cohort A in 2024. It was great to see people spark to what was in front of them. We had a number of our members provide both support and both steerage in terms of just some of the theory and how that could be brought into their teenage lives. And so once again, we want to refine a little bit, hopefully looking at partners and 2 elements that we thought were really good in terms of our first cohort, in terms of some type of camp, some type of intensive, maybe over the summer, and a podcast. And so more to follow there. But if you're interested, please let us know. Podcasts should be a natural for us and should take the weight off of doing some of the special events that we do. We think we get frequently a smart group of people together. Frequently, we're asking some really big questions that other podcasts don't. And so we think that lends itself well to the medium. We're looking for a number of hosts and panelists. We want to launch 4 podcasts this year on top of the already existing Uncertainty podcast. So the Gray Swan Hour will be getting beyond the headlines. We did this for a full year on Medium and Clubhouse. And so now we're going to pivot to a podcast. We're going to do a futures-based one called Radar, a learning-based one called Craft, and a sense-making complexity one called Liminal. So we're looking for hosts, we're looking for panelists, we're looking for people behind the mic as well. They're People always think this should be so easy. It's not. I've held off for the longest period of time trying to do this, given what needs to be organized, but I think the time is upon us. Last couple ones, we got so close to doing something on this one this year, and for a variety of reasons, it didn't happen. But it's a personal view that I think has been kind of supported through some research that I did back in 2019. We have a keynote industry that, for the most part, operates on sizzle versus substance. That may be controversial for people to hear, but I did a 300 respondent survey back in 2019 that supported the view that, God, you know what? I love going to associations and conferences for the networking opportunities. The people that enter on stage, it's a real mix of people that I really came out for and people that I would never take their advice from within my own practitioner life. So long story short, we just need 3 leaders on this project. The biggest impediment to getting this off is having 3 leaders that are passionately committed to making this a Cygnus venture and making it go. The moment we release this, I know we'll have speakers or professed speakers wanting to beat down our door. So the 24 speakers is actually going to be some type of privileged position of people that cover off our full range of stuff that we believe our audiences are interested in. And there may be some type of speaker idol too, where it's just the winner of a speaker idol competition based on some criteria, perhaps get one of those spots as well. But my hope is they're practitioners, they're designed for professional audiences, and the formats of what they might be asked to do by clients in this world might be less big keynotes on stages and maybe more executive briefings, business team kickoffs, innovation team kickoffs, and a range of different things. So I don't think we're launching that this year, but certainly some of the spade work could hopefully be done by 3 leaders this year. Let us know if you're interested. Love the fact that we're doing this. It's called the GSG Book Club. We have a book festival in December 6th of this year. So there's a lot of intersections between the two. I have Ralph Mercer here today, who's decided to take this on. And I think I'll just say, the gap that's out there is that great minds discuss ideas. If you look at what is at the top of most book lists right now, I think 8 or 9 of them are biographies. And sometimes biographies are good and sometimes they're not. And so we'd like to get at some of the things that get at big ideas. We've already got our leader, but we're looking for some other support people. And we're going to design a list of 10 different books that we will cover off as a guild this year. Hopefully we can get into some partnerships around both our book club and our book festival, but no obligation from that partnership to choose those books. I'm going to leave that in Ralph's capable hands. And so my hope is we'll have a whole bunch of readers come out. Our first engagement in real life, or at least in a live setting, is March 6th of this year, and we are reviewing the book called The Coming Wave, which is all about technology and AI in the future. Last couple things. We have a lot of things in the guild that are great ideas that need to be visualized. We recognize this, and so we'd love to craft a group called the Gallery of Thoughts, and hopefully visualize some of the stuff that we want to bring to life. We've got an e-commerce store that's being setting up soon. They'll sell reports, but they'll also sell merchandise and a whole bunch of other things that will require some design acumen. And by late 24, we'd love to set up some type of visual capitalist style gallery that brings to life some of the intelligence that we surface. And so we're looking for a few leaders. We currently have nobody tapped on this one. So beyond setting up the store, kind of indeterminate date of launch based on when these leaders can come to the fore. Last couple ones, we have Guildstack, which should be the most intelligent newsletter that you'll ever get in your inbox. I think I've mentioned in a previous showcase that I know single person entrepreneurs that have done their own version of a Substack. They charge $6 a month for their content, and they make $4 to $5 million a year. So I think comparatively, if we find lightning in a bottle, having 15 writers jump into the fold, taking the pressure off of writing every week, and producing 3 of the best things that you will write all year seems to be a simpler idea than just trying to pull one of these off yourself. We hope to be the complete knowledge and decision makers newsletter across these 15 different arenas. And we're looking for 3 people to step up and play some type of producer role, 1 leader, 2 champions, and then the 15 authors that would have some of this content. I know we've probably got half of the authors that have at least stepped up and said, I'm really interested in doing this. This seems like it's consistent. We need to round that group out and make sure that there's some leadership around it. We'd like to launch it as soon as April 2024. There's very few things that should get in front of us except for building an audience. So let's try to get at this one. And the last thing, real-time uncertainty dashboard. Everybody says things that are more uncertain and more complex and faster than they ever were before, but no one's able to prove it. There's very few different mechanics or tools out there that actually provide some evidence against that notion. So we wrote a complete book on uncertainty. We're looking at extending that and doing something on a really agile basis. How do we set up a platform that can monitor uncertainty in the world on a real-time and ongoing basis? We're looking for 5 builders to come into the fold. Why we think this is a great idea, it was the #1 rated new venture idea at our Guild General Assembly just 2 months ago. And so we're pivoting quickly to actually build a hardcore team, likely some type of steward, some uncertainty expert, maybe a data nerd, hopefully somebody that can visualize things, bring them to life, and hopefully somebody that can build the platform out and try to do kind of a 4-month project that will produce some interesting results. No pretensions in terms of what revenue, what audience we get. Let's try to produce something great and let's see what drops out of it. So those are the 13. My hope is you're as excited as I am. Not all of these will hit. I've anticipated some of your questions. One of them is, how do I join? Well, you're here today. We're going to have a full conversation as a live audience. If you're not here today, join us at this form to declare your interest. There you'll be able to click on any one of the 13 ventures we've just shared. And I'm sure if you want to be a leader on these, for sure, and if not a leader, a support person, you'll get a phone call or an email very quickly. What do you get out of all this? A reputation, some money, some of the guild and venture assets at play, a backbone of things that work, some collaborators that, by yourself, you might not be able to pull these ideas off, some client and content channels, an opportunity to lead and get closer to the opportunity that exists. Hopefully a fun and great experience and a commitment to really doing good stuff. And on the other side, what do we want? We want you to live our guild values, even though it's in the venture space. There's probably even a higher premium on your performance and professionalism in this space because we're involving in other people. We want you to put the venture and guild just as much in the front radar as your personal gain on this. And my hope is we are proud enough to want to support it in different spaces. We're open enough to consider other people's opinions. And we're fun enough to make this a really enjoyable experience amongst each other. We're going to break right now for a live discussion. I can anticipate some of your FAQs. I hope I've answered some of your, how do I get involved? What are your criteria for acceptance? On this one, not everybody will be accepted. There's a premium, I think, in certain spaces of we can only take on a few people. And in certain spaces, it will probably be the most qualified people or the most passionate people or the people that want to put more sweat equity in that in this space, venture space, will have to accept. What is the governance model? We'd love to piece out ownership over time. These are for-profit entities that we're trying to build. And they are distinct and separate from the guild. And so the captains that come into and want to lead some of the stuff obviously will have an inordinate amount of influence on how these projects go. Who is your audience? Professional decision makers, professional knowledge, people across for-profit, not-for-profit, and public spaces. They don't have to be, but with the rare exception like Futuregazing, where it's young people, they probably occupy executive or management roles. And what does success look like in 2024? I have no pretensions that all of these are going to hit. For me, my hope is 3 of the existing ones that we already have in place scale and grow. And my hope is 3 of the newer ones start to take on traction. And then for the ones that don't work, we will do like a lot of startups do and pivot and say, hey, that was a great experiment. We'll move on to something else. So that was a lot of stuff. My hope is, and I will copy these links to you in the live chat here, but here are some of the links that you can get to. We'll post these on YouTube as well. And don't be an ostrich, be a swan. That's what we're trying to get people to do. This is the 6th of our 6 different things. All of these videos are located online. And at least for the next 6 months, my hope is can operate as evergreen assets for, hey, you want to know what's going on? I don't have to have a long conversation. I can just direct you to a video and a PowerPoint slide deck that shows you everything that's involved. So my hope is you embrace the spirit of the venture. Join us along for the exploration. And for the recorded audience here, I'm going to stop. And my hope is I will be seeing you very shortly in the future.